Africa 24. This program is brought to you by the AFCFTA Secretariat.
Thank you for joining us. You are on Africa 24 English. It is a pleasure to have you with us. Today in this special edition of this program, to discuss the public and private sector challenges and opportunities in the growth prospects for the African automotive industry, we welcome Mrs. Martina Biene, Chairperson and Managing Director of Volkswagen Group Africa. Mrs. Biene, welcome to Africa 24 English.
Thank you very much.
The automotive sector is seen as a key driver for Africa's economy in the next few decades. How does Volkswagen Group Africa envision its role in contributing to the development of Africa's automotive industry and the broader industrialization agenda under the AFCFTA framework?
So in automotive industry, not only Volkswagen, but I think most of us, we call Africa the last frontier in automotive. And many of us are very keen to be part of the automotive growth in Africa. And until 2035, we'll see 3 to 5 million new cars being sold each year in Africa. Currently, it's probably 1.1, 1.2 million. And the majority of these cars, half of this 1.1, the current million, is from South Africa. Probably more or less the other half is from the 5 North African countries, and the huge kind of portion of sub-Saharan Africa in terms of new cars is almost untapped. It's 100,000 new cars per year currently. But there is a huge demand of mobility. Population is growing. Africa will be 2.5 billion by 2050 in terms of population. There's a huge demand of mobility, and that demand currently is more or less dealt with by used car imports. And now with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and with also more and more African countries wanting to be rather partner in industrialization than in trading and importing used cars, we'll see a huge opportunity. And we want to be part of it, and we want to drive it. And the African Continental Free Trade Agreement provides a framework for it. Once the rules of origin are sorted for the automotive section, and we get to more and more automotive policies, Africa will fly, and hopefully Volkswagen is at the forefront of that new car growth.
To build resilient regional value chains, local manufacturing and sourcing are critical. How can automotive industries operating in Africa like Volkswagen Group Africa should work to localize production and integrate African suppliers into its supply chain across the continent?
So our industry, we love to localize, because the more local content you've got, the cheaper the costs are. So it's not something you'll have to force us to. What it needs for localization, be it car manufacturing or be it suppliers, is we are an economy of scale, so we need volumes. And these volumes will hopefully happen by automotive policies which encourage new car production and new car sales as opposed to used car imports. So we want to, in a way, help converting, but that's policy work, the used car import industry into a new car manufactured in Africa, and with that then also used cars manufactured in Africa being sold in Africa. And with that, localization is easy, because the moment you've got volume, the moment you can attract manufacturing of cars and suppliers to come. But it's all about economies of scale. And we talk, for example, like probably 15,000 cars a year, same model being manufactured at one place before our suppliers really get appetite. So we'll need to just grow the new car market. As easy as that.
As the global automotive industry shifts towards electric vehicles and sustainable mobility solutions, how is Volkswagen Group Africa adapting to this trend, and what are the plans for introducing innovative, eco-friendly automotive solutions within the African market?
There is not one African market when it comes to new energy vehicles, as we say, or battery electric vehicles, because overall, battery electric vehicles, and first and foremost, battery electric vehicles only makes sense in an overall sustainable environment. Why I'm saying that is, so if you get to a country where you don't have sufficient electricity supply for your population, probably it's not the best idea to introduce electric vehicles which will consume energy or power, which you could rather use for electrifying the country first. Secondly, and I'll give you the example of South Africa. South Africa has source of power is 85% coal. So if we would now replace for one day the Volkswagen fleet in South Africa with electric vehicles, the combustion engine fleet with electric vehicles, we would potentially increase emissions by 30%. Because now you've got a zero emission vehicle, fine, but you've got 85% coal as source of power. So with that, in the overall value chain, you'll increase emissions. So it depends on what's the source of power of the different countries, where really battery electric vehicles make sense, if it is about climate change. If it is about preventing climate change in Africa jointly, the best thing to do is first lobby and help us in our journey to improve the fuel quality, because with better fuel, and many African countries do not use good fuels, with better fuel comes better engine technology, comes catalytic converters you can use to reduce the CO2 emission of a combustion engine vehicle, plus drive the new energy vehicle, for example, hybrid technology, because that rather brings down CO2 emissions by using innovative technology. But battery electric vehicles, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it depends on, does it really make sense if it is overall about a CO2 reduction?
Africa's automotive sector faces challenges such as infrastructure deficits, regulatory inconsistencies, and skilled labor shortages. From your perspective, what are key obstacles need to be addressed to scale up vehicle production across the continent, and how is Volkswagen tackling these issues?
We are very active in the African Association of Automotive Manufacturers. I'm also president of that. So it's not, the key obstacles are mainly not tackled by one manufacturer, but by us as an industry. One key obstacle is the automotive policies, which I've mentioned a couple of times, and more countries are working towards implementing or getting automotive policies. African Association of Automotive Manufacturers is a strong driver or strong consulting if countries are interested in having these automotive policies to overcome the used car challenges, to implement trade-related investment mechanisms for car manufacturing, for suppliers to come to implement vehicle asset financing to address the affordability issues. Logistics for sure is one. To then one day move cars, like manufactured cars, from Egypt to South Africa, that's still a very long way, I believe. And I'm glad that logistics, transport and logistics is also one of the key areas of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement as a focus area, but that's not only for our industry. I think many industries are facing that, or an open sky in Africa. Sometimes traveling to West Africa from South Africa, you'll go via Europe because there's no connections, but that will come once Africa is getting more and more together. And then we jointly really work on getting these volumes, these critical volumes done, because there's also a lot of parts or components which we can share across other manufacturers. So to attract suppliers, we can also collaborate to kind of get to the critical volumes to industrialize.
Looking ahead, what is Volkswagen Group Africa long-term vision for the automotive sector in Africa over the next 10 to 30 years? What milestones do you hope to achieve in terms of expansion, production capacity, and fostering regional partnerships?
So we are in South Africa. We do have a plant in South Africa. We manufacture a lot of vehicles in South Africa. We've been there for 73 years, so my next milestone is 75 years Volkswagen in South Africa in 2026. Very proud of that, and there's many good stories in South Africa which can also be, where Africa can also learn from. My next milestone is we are very interested currently and in very close discussions with Egypt as our second probably production hub. We do have assembly facilities, and that's how automotive always starts. So sometimes people don't get the concept of assembly, but 40 years ago when Volkswagen started in China, it started with 500 cars assembled. So we've got assembly facilities in Ghana, in Kenya, which is currently on hold, and in Rwanda. Part of the vision is also to grow from assembly to more than assembly in these countries when new car market grows. So that's if there's demand, then it's very easy for us to get into it. We'll encourage the regional partnerships already to trade amongst each other. So Ivory Coast and Ghana is a very good example. As a start, they also are complementary. In one is doing trucks, others is doing passenger cars. To start this trade to kind of grow really that one African free trade zone, which would be fantastic.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Biene, for answering Africa 24's English questions.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gents, here comes the end of this program, but please stay tuned to Africa 24 English.
This program was brought to you by the AFCFTA Secretariat on Africa 24.